Ron, you wanted to talk about the early days of the heat treat. Let's go right ahead.
Well, the early days of the heat treat, Carol and I had just moved from Marquette, and we were living in Ann Arbor, and I started playing in Detroit with a band. And that went over, pretty well, and I was teaching piano, but then it got to be like, you know, a little bit too much because I was away all the time. And then I get a call from Tom saying, hey, look, we're getting busy at the heat treat. Would you think about working here part-time? So we decided, you know what, I think I'll try it. So I started commuting from Ann Arbor to Trojan Heat Treat and working at night as a musician. So it worked out pretty good until the point came where it was a little too much, so we decided to move to Homer. But that's how I started at the Heat Treat. I was the third person to work there. And then, Dad, you have some reflection.
Well, so he never had the experience in a foundry or heat treating plant. And I hit this guy after all, he's this Italian guy. I got to get him a job. And he didn't know anything about he was a musician,
That's it.
mechanical or anything, And I actually gave him all these starting jobs, and he was well flexible, and he learned that whatever he did, he understood and learned how to do it. Then I was trying to break him into being an accountant, and the CPA, Bob Deemer, he's the CPA, did our books, and I said, well, I'm going to train him. Train him. He says he doesn't know anything about accounting, but he persevered. And Ron was very flexible, good with figures, and adapted readily with taking care of the books. So he was a quick learner, but I always figured this a guy, Italian guy from New York, got to break, get him a job, and he turned out to be all right.
I guess so.
Yeah.
The heat treat took off, didn't it?
Really, well, he learned. He learned quick. I mean, he did one thing. He learned. He listened rather. I told him that when he first started working to join some of the trade associations, which he did, and of course he just cemented his friendship with people other than the local foundry, heat treat. So he just filled in and did what he's supposed to do and learned very quick in learning all the techniques of heat treating.
And the whole group of you often went out to the conferences, the heat treat conferences around the country after that.
Yeah, well, I believe in going to these conferences and meeting people. And in fact, when I first started with the foundry, and I was just a neophyte, and we had this conference, or association, the local association. And we had this Professor Sigerfus from Michigan State was a member. And I always made it a point, because I didn't know nothing about heat treat or anything, to be next to him. I associated in the country to develop a relationship, and it was just, I had good teachers, and I learned to cultivate teaching. I always believed in meeting and cultivating people.
And what did you do when the two of you and maybe all four of you would go to the conferences? Did one of you go to classes? And
Well, actually, when I used to take a group to these foundry conferences, about the group from a foundry, I said, I don't want any of you sitting together. Each sit separately at different tables, then when we get back, we can talk. So they all always did this. So after the meeting, going home in the car, we'd all relate the stories, and we learned from the people that we were dealing with. And Ron and everybody just really fluctuated.
Well, the conferences were all over the country. They had major conferences in Colorado Springs that was beautiful, in San Diego.
Well,
All over the conferences were great.
but my ulterior motive with the conferences, you got these freebies that go to Europe, and we were the only American foundry And you, Buddy and I, we went to any place we could, freebie, we went all over. In Australia, New Zealand, went to conferences, and we were the only guys from Michigan that went to these conferences. We didn't, then we'd go first class, you know, when we traveled together. And with Bob, we used to go with Bob and Pat, and we never, Bob and Pat, or Bob and I never believed in making reservations, and the women would always